Ooh. Oh my god, my hair needs a wash real bad. Steamed egg. Hi babe, how are we? What's happening? Good morning. It's 11 o'clock for me. What time is it for you? I'm good, I'm good. I'm trying to get back into a routine because I've just been living unhinged, really in the chaotic part of my brain. Hi babe, thank you. Let me know if you have any content topic requests. How are you guys going? What's the tea? Where are you located? What's happening in your life? Do you have any gossip? Do I have any gossip? I've kind of been like, not antisocial, but more selective with the company that I keep, or the way that I spend my time, or like who I spend my time with. I feel that's always something that I've struggled with, because I want to be able to like fulfill everyone's request and make everybody happy, but I literally just haven't had time, slash being tired. Just graduated with my bachelor's today. Oh my god, congratulations! What did you study? Is NJ New Jersey in the US? What did you study? You should be very proud of yourself. Pursuing an education is a privilege, and also worth doing in whatever capacity, whatever format you choose. Oh, in psychology, slay. Congratulations. Making natto. What are you having for brekkie? I'm having a steamed egg with natto, cabbage, and a mantou. Just working with whatever is in my fridge right now. This is like not, I think I'm just gonna put this into the egg, whatever. How are you guys going? What else is news? What's happening? What's happening? I'm waiting to hear back from clients about some music stuff. I have a fitting today for a photo shoot tomorrow. I'm gonna think about topics. If I have time, I'm gonna try to film a video. I just got a skin treatment the other day, so I like didn't really want to be on camera, but it's okay at the moment. I put a tiny bit of makeup on. I'm in China, in Shanghai. Busy day, how often do you film videos? I film videos whenever I have the time. I did film a bunch of videos the other month on my other camera, but I'm really like not happy about it. I'm not happy with the product, so I'm gonna have to redo them, I think. I look like I'm getting ready to paint the walls. Theme of the photo shoot, I don't even know. I'm only like one part of a group, I think. Making tacos, yum. I'm having steamed egg with natto, cabbage, and a bun. A mantle, as they say in China. 1,000-layer bun. Mmm. Steak taco, yum. But yeah, I have a long list of topics that I want to be able to make videos or podcasts about, but I'm always open to suggestions. I love Mexican food. I really want to go to Mexico. I feel like I haven't really had authentic Mexican food. I mean, I've had Mexican food in LA. I love filming videos but hate editing them, especially long form. Couldn't agree more. The editing. Some people really love editing, which I envy. Not me though. If I get into like a flow state, I can enjoy it, but I mean, I have so many other things that I need to be doing. And I feel like my time is better spent doing, but that's just where we're at right now. Mexican food is on point. This is basically Mexico, which we stole during the Battle of Los Angeles. Exactly. I didn't even know that until like 10 years ago, that Los Angeles was basically Mexico. Every new piece of information I learn about America's history makes me question American hegemony. But yeah, what are some thoughts, requests that people have sent me or asked for? I think a lot of people have been asking about like how to get over your own clownery, which I actually have a video on already, but maybe I should make an updated version. Just an output of the British monarchy, exactly. Just like Australia. So I can relate on that front, seeing it up close. Maybe not with the same level of intensity as America, because Australia is kind of irrelevant on the global stage. I would say that Australia is kind of like the bitch of the UK and the US. First time on a live, thanks for joining. Yeah, people asking like how to get over someone disappointing you or someone not being able to take accountability for their actions. And I feel like, as annoying as it is for me to say this, it is really about focusing on doing things that you enjoy. The more you do things that you enjoy, the greater the space between you and the harm that was caused. Tuning in from China. Oh my God, hi, I'm in Shanghai. Where in China are you? Good luck for your wisdom tooth, babe. Best advice for starting over in late 20s. You've barely even started, girl. Just enjoy the ride. Start like making time, figuring out what kind of like grounding exercises you might need. Have like part of a ritual in your day to day. It can be really basic, like every morning you wake up and you make yourself a tea, or every morning you wake up and you do a meditation or something that you do like daily. And yeah, get hobbies that you enjoy. Oh my god, you're in Shandong. I've never been to Shandong. Yeah, invest in pursuing your curiosity and your joy. You know, I think having practices and activities in your life that you look forward to allows you to set healthy boundaries in other areas of your life. You know what I mean? So I have like videos about non-negotiable hobbies. When you have anchor points in your life that are for you to enjoy and explore, then naturally your relationship to work, to friendship, to romance, to your family will sort of recalibrate. You don't need to go into your like dynamics and try to fix them or try to change people. You just need to adjust your base level, you know? Tips for procrastinators? I don't know, girl. I have like full time blindness. To-do list, I recommend using your calendar. If you don't already, color code your calendar. So my calendar on my like iCal is color coded for like work, workout, life stuff, admin, study/work prep versus like a work job. Yeah, and writing lists. And do like an audit every few weeks. Like, okay, what do I need to follow up on? What needs attention? What can be deprioritized? I find that like rather than thinking about everything as a day-to-day thing, sometimes I think thinking about it in terms of like a week at a time, depending on your work or like your lifestyle or what you have going on. Do you have a favorite topic to make content about? I don't really have a favorite topic, I think. It just depends on the mood. Depends on... I haven't made like dating adjacent content in a long time. Sometimes I miss it because you get a lot of attention when you talk about dating. I love when you talk about importance of meditation and being present. Thank you. I feel like that's a topic that nobody wants to hear about because it requires you to like develop self-discipline in a way that we're not generally encouraged or like overtly rewarded. But I think it's like the biggest thing that you can do is like learning how to be present in your mind and body and observing yourself rather than feeling like you have to constantly be critiquing yourself or others. Constantly creating the only time is when I'm sick. Having lots of arts commissioned. Yeah, I love that. Would you ever write a book? Big fan of when you say things. Thank you. I would love to write a book. But I kind of got a bunch of other things I want to do first. Oh my god, I need to find a new yoga studio. After the owner of the last studio that I was going to deleted me because I didn't reply to his message when I did reply. Like he messaged me on a Friday and then I was so busy that Friday I had to go to the police station to mediate the return of my deposit from my landlord. Okay, I kind of had things going on. And he asked me like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. And then obviously he was just doing like outreach to see if I was gonna renew my membership there. And I went to reply on Monday like, oh, I moved out of the area, but like I'm gonna book a class when I'm close by. And he'd already deleted me. Whatever. I'm like, bruh, you've been practicing yoga your whole life. You graduated from yoga university and you don't even have like the patience to wait a few days for a non-urgent reply. So anyway, the studio isn't that close to my new place anyway, so there's so many yoga studios around where I live, and I'm going to like figure out, I'm going to test different studios and see what the vibe is. He deleted after a weekend. I replied to text and went on that. Why? Like, he's not my friend. I don't know why he's, oh my God. Thoughts on plastic surgery. My thoughts on plastic surgery are, I know it is a sign to get a new studio, and there's, thank you for the luck. I was already like not urgent, hi babe, to renew my membership there anyway. Like, besides just the location, also my like favorite instructor there left. So, and also sometimes there's like people that I don't want to see that go to that studio, so I'm going to find a new one. Maybe I'll book a class for sometime this week. Okay, my thoughts on plastic surgery are, it really depends on your relationship with plastic surgery. Okay, I think generally speaking, like plastic surgery is or cosmetic surgery is like an exploitative. It's cosmetic surgery that's like aesthetic, and plastic surgery that's like for after you've suffered like an injury, right? Okay, whichever one is for cosmetic only. Generally speaking, I think the industry is like pretty exploitative, obviously. I think that I don't judge people who get plastic surgery, but I think people, there are so many steps that I would encourage people to take before getting plastic surgery if their assumption is that plastic surgery is going to make them happy. Like, oh, once my nose looks this way, once my face looks this way, then I'm going to be confident, then I'm going to be happy. Like, that's not always the case. Of course, there are cases where people are like, I feel so much more confident after the work that I've had done, and they're not like addicted to this idea that they have to keep getting work done in order to achieve some kind of like arbitrary level of perfection or respect from others. I think like when clinics or doctors encourage people to do like a psych eval before plastic surgery, should be encouraged. I think when you're like under 25, there's no rush to get anything done. You haven't even grown into your face yet. And even the changes that I experienced like physically between the ages of like 25 and 30 is crazy. It looks like I've had plastic surgery. But like just the way that like your hormones change, how your lifestyle impacts how you look, like your appearance is actually also dynamic. It's not like you're stuck with the face that you have when you're 25 forever. But yeah, I feel like it just depends how much emphasis you put on what plastic surgery can or can't do for you. And like generally speaking, plastic surgery industry and marketing is going to sell you the illusion of a solution that's like not realistic, I think, or sustainable. Cosmetic surgery is purely for aesthetic reasons, but plastic surgery can be either for aesthetics or body reconstruction and repair. I've seen cosmetic surgery consultant vids that have suggested so many procedures fillers when a person just came in for a nose job. Yeah, like the upselling is crazy. Keep in mind that surgery of any kind is inherently risky, does not go perfectly without complications. Exactly. Like the fact that people can die from getting a BBL. Excuse me? And the number of people who are not aware of the upkeep required once you get a BBL. That spooked me. We weren't supposed to see our faces that much. Exactly. Like, even, I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm not looking that closely at people's faces and like judging their character based on their appearance. Like, you need to do something for me to be like, you're ugly. Okay, you're spiritually chopped. I'm not going to look at someone and be like, oh, that's a bad person. Or like, oh, because they look this way, they must be that. Like, your ability to discern or judge someone doesn't just come from their physicality, in my opinion. Or there's like room for enough benefit of doubt until I feel I need to make a judgment on somebody, but obviously that's not how everybody works. I mean, even like with Asian beauty standards, and people talk about double eyelid. I don't even know what double eyelid means. Like, it's such a huge thing in China. I was like sitting at dinner with my friends and we were talking about someone that we know that got double eyelid surgery, or like a slight modification. I don't know if it was like full on surgery or not. And I was like, do you guys have double eyelids? What does a double eyelid even look like? Like, could you even tell that she didn't have double eyelids before? Like, I don't know. But I mean, if she's happy, then happy for her. But even like another friend was like, yeah, I want to get like Botox, sleep, or embrace your face, you know? I don't know. Like I discussed in my most recent video, changing your relationship to beauty is important. I think it's not just about like adhering to beauty standards. I found that people who have noticed small details about my physical appearance, be it face, body, are often super critical, overly self-conscious of their own looks. Of course, it's always a projection. Always, 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 always. You know, and to what degree do you allow that projection to determine the quality of your relationship? You know what I mean? Love ya. Like, you actually get to choose what type of people you're friends with. And if you don't want to be defined by your physical appearance, then you need to be friends with people who also think that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can still be hot and still want to look good without thinking that, or without thinking and without behaving in a way that is indicative of that being the only thing that you value about yourself and other people. You know what I mean? Like, I care about looking good to a degree, but I also care about my ability to think critically, my ability to be creative, my ability to be kind and generous, my ability to like make things and do things and have fun. Those are different skills to being able to book a facial, being able to do my makeup. You know, just because you can do your makeup or just because you can look to a certain standard doesn't mean that you know how to respect yourself, or to be a good friend, or to be a good daughter, or to be a like effective co-worker, you know? So I think diversifying the skills that you have that allow you to have a well-rounded experience of life is more important than just the shape of your nose, in my opinion. How AI has impacted beauty standards. Why am I seeing AI models on the TL? People are convinced they're real. Really? I don't see that much AI content, at least not to my knowledge. And I've also been spending a lot less time on social media, I feel, recently. And I don't really follow like influencer accounts. I think like a hack for your algorithm is I've noticed that people who make content versus people who don't make content and on social media. So like I have friends who they don't make TikToks, so their For You page is like really unhinged. But I think because of the content that I make, my algorithm kind of skews towards that echo chamber in a way. Like it's not as like random. There's still random stuff, which I love, but like one of my friends who has like a fully private TikTok account, doesn't make TikToks and doesn't really actively follow that many people, is not followed by that many people to my knowledge. The stuff that she sends me is totally batshit. Like, I never get stuff like that. Do you have a journal ecosystem? Multiple journals for different reasons. I have two. One for crashing out and one for positive scripting. I haven't been that consistent recently, but I try to do it at least like once a week. But when I first started, it was like every day. Like if you're like really going through it and you want to start journaling, I recommend you do it like at least 5 days a week. You know, you get the weekend off, but you want to go Monday to Friday, thought dump, okay? Get it all out of your system. Do that as consistently as you can for like up to a year. And then you can sort of like taper off and just do it for maintenance. My biggest creative influences at the moment. I don't know, actually. I don't really have like specific things that I look to. I just try to draw inspiration from life. You know, like I'll listen to music, I'll read a book, I'll go outside, I'll have a conversation with someone. I don't really have like very defined influences, I feel. It's more like a synthesis of everything that I observe and enjoy and am curious about, if that makes sense. So it varies from day to day. And I think like when I come up with like new ideas for things, it always happens in sort of like random in between moments. It's not like I sit down and I'm like, okay, I need to come up with ideas. It'll be like, I make a note of this, I make a note of that. And then when I actually sit down to make something, I'll like go through notes that I've made or something. I do want to like get more serious about the things that I research and study. Like I've been really wanting to make like a second brain thing on Notion, or the other one, Obsidian. I just feel like it would take a really long time. So yeah, I need to find time to do that at some point. Like, I really admire people who have like full-on notebook stack and they have a whole system and it's all handwritten. Like, as much as handwritten is valuable and like good for the brain, digital is just so much easier to navigate. Like, I left my Kindle in Australia. I'm so annoyed. And I have been reading paperback, which has been nice because I think it focuses you a little bit more in a way. But I haven't been like highlighting the book or anything. So I only have like disparate echoes of things that I remember. I can't like check all my highlights and go through all my notes. So, I mean, that was a good exercise for me to realize the importance and the utility of digital format. I'm thinking about maybe changing to a different type of ebook with better note-taking capabilities. I don't know. There's just a lot to think about. I admire people who write critical essays for fun and not just for uni. Yeah, maybe I should start doing that. But like, good morning. What are everyone else's creative influences right now? I have 4. 1 for brain dump morning pages, a diary, gratitude manifestation journal, and a commonplace journal. But brain dumping is a must. I have too many thoughts. 100%. Brain dumping, actually an essential part of maintaining your mental health. Handwriting has been my default for years. I didn't catalog them properly and now I can't find anything. Yeah. Like, how do people just have like handwritten notes? I can't even read my handwriting. Most of the time it's literally like, what is this? crazy. Yeah, I need to, but brain dumping via handwriting is definitely more effective than typing, in my opinion. And it also like activates a different part of the brain when you handwrite. So I guess like finding a healthy balance between these things. But yeah, recently I've really been like yearning for like structured education or like structured learning or like intentional learning, I think. Like I said before, like a lot of the times I'm just like absorbing and processing what I observe without making like tangible like structured record, you know. Just woke up. Should I meditate or should I say meditate and come back? Yes, you can do a meditation and come back. I'll be on for like another half hour. So yeah, I don't know, like the feminine urge to like structure my thoughts instead of allowing them to just float around. You know, I'll do like a thought dump. I'll have like a structured, I don't know, I think I'm just like feeling some kind of random time crunch for something that I'm not yet sure of. But yeah, I've been really enjoying the book that I've been reading, The Tao of Physics, which I mentioned in my recent YouTube video. I just listened to an audiobook as well about cryptocurrency and money laundering, which was really interesting. Also kind of disturbing. But I think that it's important to understand that with every innovation that can like benefit humanity and connect people and provide solutions, there's also like a shadow side to all of these technologies where it can be used for like harm and destruction. And I mean, I don't think that cryptocurrency was exactly invented with the intention of like changing the world. I think it was just like, yeah, I think it actually was like a money laundering scheme. But where do I find book recs? Just randomly. I don't really go out of my way to look for book recommendations. I just let the book recommendations come to me, you know. When I don't even remember. Actually, I think like The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, one of my favorite books, and there's like some videos about it that I made. I made one talking about how it changed my life. I've made one about the first pillar of self-esteem. And then we have like baddie book club discussion recordings. I feel like that book I discovered because I was like watching a YouTube video about something, and then it had like a quote from that book that resonated with me. So then I looked up the book, and then I read the book the first time, and it left an impression on me, but I didn't do like the written exercises. And then I had like went full on into my Saturn return at the beginning of the pandemic. I reread the book, I did all the writing exercises, and it literally changed my life. So completely rewired my brain and my relationship to myself. But yeah, that was like so random. I didn't like go out of my way to find a book about self-esteem. It just like came to me. And then even The Road Less Traveled, I think maybe like I read All About Love by Bell Hooks, and then he is referenced, or that book is referenced in that book, and then I read it. I don't know, I'll just make like random orders online. At that time, I was just making random orders of books on the internet, and then now I kind of like read something, look at the recommended. Sometimes people that I know will give me book recommendations, but I'm very loose with the reading, you know, like I'll read something, I'll read the beginning of something and maybe not be that into it and then switch to something else. I saw a TikTok video where someone was like, you don't have to like finish everything that you read. You should just be reading because you enjoy reading. If you don't enjoy what you're reading, you can read something else. You know, this isn't school. So, yeah, I need to get better at studying and note-taking. But have you guys read anything that you've enjoyed recently? Reading or watching? What are things I've watched recently? I watched The Drama, which I enjoyed. I watched The Devil Wears Prada 2, which I also didn't think was that bad. I think people were being really hard on it. At least I saw really negative reviews before I saw the movie, so my expectations are really low. It wasn't like life-changing, the film, but I thought it was like fun. I think it addressed the issues and like the state of media well enough for a blockbuster type film. Clothes are really ugly though, I do have to say. But I mentioned when I talked about it on Instagram, I was like, well, it's like they're not influencers or models, so they don't have to dress well, I guess. I don't know. And I've been like half watching Euphoria. And I also don't think it's that bad. But I do watch it on Chinese streaming platforms, so I think all the really gory scenes are cut out, which I'm more than happy about. I don't need to see that. And you would never find me glazing Sam Levinson, but it's not as bad. Currently reading Lying by Sam Harris. Just started with Women Who Run with Wolves. Okay, slay. That's a great book also. How is the Sam Harris book? Wait, let me look it up. Why is that name so familiar? Does he have a podcast? Oh, the neuroscientist guy, yeah. Radically simplify our lives by telling the truth. No shit, bro. I watched Common Side Effects recently. I've been reading You Are the Placebo. Okay, what are your thoughts? Common Side Effects. Is it a show? Oh, adult cartoon. Okay. Oh, it has Martha Kelly in it. 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. What? Stumble on a mushroom that can heal anything. Wow. Oh, You Are the Placebo by Joe Dispenza. It's a quick read, really interesting. Slay. Okay, I love this. So I'm getting book recommendations from YouTube Live now. I'll add that to the list. Been reading Rejection Proof by Jia Jiang after seeing his TikTok. Ooh. Just watched Portrait of a Lady on 5 for the first time. Also reading Women Who Run with Wolves. I haven't seen that. Interesting. Rejection Proof. How I Beat Fear and Become Invincible. Wow. Did he do like rejection therapy? Been reading Gothic fantasy trilogy Gormenghast by Mervyn Peake, which has dense, vivid imagery. Wow. Okay, wait. Gormenghast. It's a TV show as well. I was proud of myself for getting through the first part of the book because it was very hard to get through. Okay. Yes, I've also been thinking about the importance or how to embrace your haters, because I feel like when you, like, the key is to focus on doing what you enjoy first, like expand the sources of joy that you have in your life, okay? Being hot and having fun. And as you grow into that, like your relationship with yourself changes, and then your relationship with the people around you can change as well, for better or worse, okay? Some relationships will evolve and you will grow together, and other relationships you will grow apart. And that's just what happens, you know? You plant a seed in a garden and that affects all the other plants around it, right? And some plants are more compatible than others, depending on how they grow together. So I think that if you're not going out of your way to like actively harm people, then you do kind of just have to embrace the fact that there will be negative feedback. I think there's this idea that if you receive negative feedback, that is an indicator of your true intentions. But that's not always the case, okay? Like, you could just be living your life and minding your own business, and that will trigger someone who doesn't know how to do that, okay? They're always in everybody else's business. It doesn't matter who it is. You could be you or somebody else, and they would still be triggered. And I think that's like, can be difficult to like wrap your head around. Like, I still find it difficult to wrap my head around that, but I've experienced it enough times to be like, okay, this is obviously a you problem, not a me problem. Because the more time that you spend with yourself, like the more intentional time you spend with yourself, understanding what your motivations are, living from a place of being hot and having fun, actually like creating that in your life, the easier it will be to distinguish between like when you've actually harmed someone and when someone just can't take personal accountability and wants to blame whoever, you know? Like, even if you're wrong about something, that's just part of being a person, you know? And it's okay to be wrong and take accountability depending on what the issue is. But I think people struggle with that so much now, because they're constantly like being reinforced with their own worldview, especially if they're like chronically online and if they don't have like a diverse social circle around them. So yeah, I mean, I've talked about it a lot before on previous videos, but I think that can be difficult to come to terms with, because yeah, if you're just focused on like living your best life, it's like really weird when people who firstly could benefit from you doing that but take offense to it if you're close to them, and then also people who literally you have nothing to do with, and they will still make it about them, you know? I don't know. People are crazy, basically. That's all I have to say. Shocks me every time. Every day is a new adventure and surprise. But I will say that experiencing haters also makes you appreciate the people that you actually love more. You know, you kind of need that contrast in the end. How to become more opinionated and independent. My thoughts are often influenced by others. When I research, it rarely feels like I'm knowledgeable enough to speak on it. I recommend thought dumping into your journal. And I think for me personally, I never assume that I know everything. You know, like I talk about how what I share is just an ever evolving body of knowledge. You know, if I change my mind on anything, I'll let you know. And it's just like my point of view as it is now. I'm open to new information. And because I'm willing to interrogate why I could be wrong, then that forces you to think about things more than the average person who's just like, this is my thought and this is the truth, because it is a thought that I have. So I think also, like, I'm open, I embrace like being dumb as well, like asking a dumb question or like wanting clarification for something and being able to like have humility about that, just being like, oh, just making sure that this is what you mean, or like, what does that mean, or where is that, how do you say that, and being okay with that as well. Like, I would rather have someone think that I'm dumb and then get clarification that I need on something that allows me to be more effective at life or at this relationship or at this job, than to insist on the illusion that I'm right and then fuck it up. You know what I mean? But I still have to like gas myself up sometimes to be like, okay, you need to ask this question even though you feel like you're dumb. Don't let that overtake, and like actually ask the question that you need clarification for. A few days ago, I got a video on TikTok of a random girl. Turned out she lives in my neighborhood. I just texted, let's hang out, and she agreed, so we did. Didn't know it was that easy. Oh my God, I'm so happy for you. Hope you guys had a good time. And if not, you can still, now you've done that, so you know that you can, that's something that you can do to people. Growing older has made me realize these people who are set on misunderstanding you and not taking accountability for themselves are not worth the time and energy. Exactly. Steamed egg with natto and lentil, yes. That's what I'm having. I have cabbage here too, but I haven't eaten it. Yeah, like, it's always the people who can't take accountability that are like, you need to communicate, you can't be so avoidant, blah, 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 blah. Because for me, I'm like, if you don't like me, that's actually fine. Like, I hope we both find what makes us happy, you know, and I hope we both can find the company that we enjoy. I don't feel like entitled to people wanting to spend time with me or liking me or thinking that I'm right or whatever, but it's always the people who aren't willing to take accountability, can't accept that maybe they are the common denominator in all the problems that they experience in their life. They want to insist on, you should be able to communicate. Oh, like, how could you just like throw a friendship away? You can't, like, you need to be considerate of like where the other person is coming from. Maybe if someone had told them what they did was wrong, it's like, why would you need to even have that conversation? If we were actually compatible and we were both, we had like compatible levels of consideration for each other, it wouldn't come to that, in my opinion and experience. Everyone's journey is different, but for me personally, I don't want to be in a friendship where I have to like be someone else's moral compass, or I have to educate someone on how to be a good friend to me if they don't have to do that for me to them, you know? Like, if they enjoy my friendship but I have to educate them on how to be my friend, then I feel like that's a problem, okay? And if we both have to constantly communicate with each other about how to be good friends to each other, that's also not ideal. But that's because I'm in my 30s now. And even when I was in my 20s, I didn't want to do that. Do you ever perform sets in Beijing? Would love to see you play one day. Shanghai is a tad far away from me. Maybe, I don't know yet. I used to go to Beijing a lot, but not so much recently. I don't even know like what clubs are out there now. Pillbox and Jiaodai, I guess. How can you tell if it's them projecting versus they're telling some truth about you? You can ask, speak to the manager within, you know, and ask yourself, like, do you want to entertain what they have to say? You know, some people can say really valid things about me that they don't like, which I'm like, I respect that, but like, I'm not going to change just to manage this relationship with you because I like the way that I am, you know. People have told me, people who have like benefited from my friendship have turned around and been like, you're too opinionated and I don't like the way that you say things. And I'm like, okay, sorry about that. Then what are the things that I've said that have offended you? And they're all things that are like not personal to them. Like there's things they've taken personally, but I didn't say like, I think you're ugly, okay? Because I would never say that. So in that case, it's like, okay, there's truth to what you're saying. I am opinionated. Yeah. And I do speak in a very specific way. Right. But that's pretty obvious just from like a surface level reading of me as a person. And some people like it and some people don't. But the way that they interpreted it was like taking it personally. So is the friendship worth me changing or adjusting myself for that? No, but maybe in some cases it is. It depends. But I think because I live from a place of like, do I enjoy my own company? Do I enjoy the result and the consequences of my behavior? Are there friendships and relationships that I feel accepted in and supported by, that I can support and accept? Then all that other projection is just like, okay, it can be sad if you assumed that you were like good friends with someone and then they low-key hate you. But that's not your problem, actually. It will become your problem if you aren't doing what I mentioned before, I've sent multiple friends your Pick Me Seed essay. It's brought up conversations that have deepened my relationships and helped us step further into our own core beliefs. Just wanted to properly thank you. Oh my God, thank you. I'm screenshotting this. Recently lost some friends. I'd like to learn how to properly understand my mistakes I made and how to reflect on them. I don't want to be a bad person. Well, I recommend reading The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden. And I think that friend breakups are just a part of life. I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but won't be the first and the last, And I don't think every friend breakup needs to be like a dramatic ending. But I mean, if they said anything to you, that's something to think about. But I feel like the way that you treat other people is usually an extension of how you treat yourself. So thinking about, are you really hard on yourself and then really hard on other people around you, or really judgmental of yourself and then really judgmental in your conversations with other people as well? The older that I get, the more that I see how the way that people communicate with you is a reflection of how they communicate with themselves, okay? And obviously there are people who have the ability to perform to others, a fake version, okay, of niceness. But I think the mask always drops. There's always going to be holes. You see, it's like people that are like so bubbly and they have this like really, the only way I can describe it is like clean girl aesthetic personality. But then when you get to know them, there's almost always like underlying envy, resentment for, I don't know, people in their life, judgment in a way that's not really like aligned with their performance of niceness, in my opinion. I think when you just embrace that there are shades of light and dark in who you are, and like, for me, I think it's better to lead with the multifacetedness of who you are so that you can build a relationship that's like authentic, versus people that are like overly nice and performing in that way to like ingratiate themselves with people. And then it's like seeing a baby swear, when someone with like a clean girl aesthetic personality starts talking shit about her friends. You know what I mean? Scary. How to stop proving yourself to people who already have a fixed narrative of you. I've already spoken about that before, I feel. You just have to grey rock them. Just be nice, keep it surface level, and play dumb. And distance yourself if it's not essential for you to be around them. But I can make a more specific video. I have a friend that keeps asking for me, though I don't think we're compatible. How can I break it without being a bitch since they care a lot about me? I would just be like, I'm sorry, I'm like super busy. And like actually be busy, like do other things with your time, you know, focus on your hobbies, focus on your work, focus on other friendships. I personally am not the type of person that thinks you need to tell someone like what you don't like about them, nor do I need to hear that from someone. I would rather they just ignore me. That's just me personally. I mean, I've talked about this topic before on TikTok and people are like, I would just want someone to tell me why they don't like me. And I'm like, I don't know. I know why people don't like me. And I think that's their right. Because I like myself and I enjoy my life. So I don't really care if other people don't like me, because with or without them, I know I'm going to be okay. So if you're not living from a place where like you learn to be your own best friend and enjoy your own company, you will always feel some type of way about other people not liking you, because that's how you feel about yourself. But if you know how to like prioritize your relationship with yourself in a way that allows you to enjoy life, other people not enjoying you won't really matter. You know, of course you might feel disappointed when someone you want to be friends with doesn't have time for you or can't prioritize you, but like you have other priorities, so it doesn't really matter. Long term, at least. Sharpening your discernment skills is a must. Pattern recognition and trying to separate your thoughts from who you are, but also realizing a broken clock is right twice. A broken clock is right twice a day. Yeah. How can I see Amber's answers? I'm on Substack. People who attack you or character. Girl, why are you in all these unhinged dynamics? Everything comes down to being able to self-regulate, okay? So just treat everything like a performance, you know? Someone's yelling at you and you're just like, okay. It's got nothing to do with you most of the time, okay? If it had anything to do with you and it actually mattered, they would be able to have a conversation with you. You know, you'd be able to work through it together. It wouldn't become like a screaming attack. You know, think about when you feel the need to yell at someone or get super defensive, it's usually because of some unaddressed part of you. So that's why thought dumping, journaling, very important practices, meditation, because it allows you to diffuse your awareness and illuminate parts of you that you might usually try to repress or ignore. And then you can interrogate those parts of yourself and ask yourself, is this a valid criticism that I have of myself or other people? Or is it just a projection, or is it an insecurity? Like, what is underneath all of these assumptions that I have about myself? If you don't enjoy you and your own company and your own life, you will always feel the need to defend yourself to other people, you know? So sometimes when you feel more defensive, then that's an indicator that there are areas of your life that are going unaddressed that you might need to bring more focus to. So it's not like you necessarily have to never feel defensive. It's just noticing when you feel defensive and what does that say about where your attention and your priorities are and how they can be adjusted. You know what I mean? It's not like I feel defensive, therefore I'm a bad person, even though I enjoy my life. It's like, okay, what does this tell me about me, you know? I'd rather be ghosted than have to endure our season has come to an end. Exactly. And honestly, when people have tried to do that to me, they always end up trying to be friends again. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, we don't have to be friends, that's fine. But it's almost like, to me, I feel like sitting someone down and being like, I just don't think we can be friends anymore is almost always a power play. It's almost always someone who has some other issue with themselves, and they want to be like, they want to make themselves feel better than you, basically, by saying like, I'm the one to end this. And it's like, is that necessary? Like, either we fight it out and we've had some issue, like someone has done something to someone and it's like, this is like, you've cooked it and we are never speaking again, or you just naturally drift apart and you can still just like maintain civility with each other, or you're rightfully placed in the acquaintance circle rather than the inner circle, you know, like it's okay if that happens. But now that you mention it, people being like, I just don't think we can be friends anymore, it's almost always a power play. And they want you to beg for their friendship. That's not gonna be me, girl. So anytime someone's tried to do that to me, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. And then I go live my life and they're like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, I'm doing great. Just always thought that obviously I'm not a perfect person, tend to make mistakes, so I want to develop a skill to recognize my mistakes as well, not only others. Yes, that's important part of maturing, you know, and it's trial and error, and you're not always going to get it right, and sometimes bridges will be burned, but that's part of life. And I think as long as your intention is towards how can I leave a space like neutral or in better condition than when I left, you know, how can I treat this person in a bare minimum neutral way, okay, or improve their day, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going out of my way to make everyone's life a living hell, but also people's values are different, you know. And for me, because I enjoy pursuing the truth of things, and like looking at different perspectives of what sometimes people assume is like a one-dimensional thing, like not everybody wants to do that, so I don't expect everyone to relate or agree or have the same values. And that's been a process of trial and error, you know, like I've had, and a lot of people like pretend to be or pretend to want something that they don't want in order to get close to you, because they want like the benefits that they view that you can provide for them. But then when they see what it actually takes to create a life like that or to have a perspective like that, they don't like that, they don't want to do that, and then they get mad. But whose fault is that? Not mine. I showed you how to do it and you're just mad at the process, and then you say that you're mad at me when the process would be the same whether you learned it from me or somebody else. Feeling ashamed and getting hurt, yeah, that's okay. It's okay that the thoughts come up, you just don't have to place any like weight on them. You can place weight on other more enjoyable thoughts. That's a reminder to you about what's important to you. It's not a reminder that you're like a bad person, or that or a reflection of your inherent value, you know, like everybody is imperfect and a work in progress. Anger is a secondary emotion. Journaling definitely helps to see what's underlying. Exactly. Unbothered. I be bothered sometimes though, but we must return to an unbothered state. That's what being unbothered is really about. It's not about nothing bothering you. It's about managing your emotions and your thoughts when you feel bothered, which many don't want to do, okay? What do you mean when you separate your thoughts from your actual person? Like, I've heard you say that before. I don't understand what it entails. Okay, so your thoughts arise randomly, okay? If you don't have awareness of the difference between your thoughts that come randomly and you, the thinker, the person that observes the thoughts, you will think that every thought that you have is reality, okay? So like, I think I talked about that in my most recent video. You think that having an intrusive thought, having a negative thought makes you a negative person or makes you a bad person. You think a violent thought, so then you define yourself by what you think. But when you can observe your thoughts, you can choose what you do and don't identify with, what you do and don't act on, what you do and don't feel defined by, okay? And I think this is about like integrating the shadow as well. So that's why I call it like cute, chaotic, and critical thinking. Cute, chaotic, creative, and critical thinking. Because it's okay to have chaotic thoughts. It is okay to feel crazy. But do you act on crazy thoughts, or do you act on the cute and the critical thinking and the creative thinking? You know what I mean? So I think sometimes people want to repress or disidentify with like negative thoughts or bad thoughts, but it's just a matter of observing them and being like, okay, noted. Is this relevant to what I'm currently dealing with? Yes or no? And you can have that for like good and bad thoughts. Does that make sense? And when you do meditation, you develop the muscle of being able to separate the thoughts from the thinker. You notice the thoughts rather than allowing the thoughts to define you. Does that make sense? So, for example, if I have social anxiety and I meet someone new, thoughts that might come up are like, oh my God, they hate me. Okay, no, another example. You message your friend. You just made a new friend and you message them to be like, hey, how are you going? Would you like to catch up this week? You don't know them that well, so you don't know what their communication patterns are. And it takes them like 2 days to reply to you. And then in the meantime, you're like, oh my God, they hate me, and it's because I'm ugly and because I'm weird, blah, blah, blah. So in that sense, you've identified with your thoughts, but an alternative path would be you message them, you don't hear back. In the meantime, you have these thoughts, oh my God, they hate me, blah, 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 blah. But you could also think, well, I don't know them well enough for them to hate me outright, or for that to be a real reflection of who I am. Maybe they're just really busy, or they haven't seen the message. How about I go and busy myself and do something with my life, and then whether they reply or not isn't going to make or break my self-concept or my identity. You know what I mean? I might be disappointed if I never hear from them, but you never know. And then maybe they text you back in 2 days and they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't see this message, I've been traveling, let's catch up this week, this time. You know what I mean? So like, what thoughts do you allow yourself to feel defined by, if at all? And which thoughts do you entertain? How do you redirect your thinking towards being hot and having fun? Being ugly and having a bad time would be assuming that everything is personal and people's communication patterns or whatever is a reflection of your inherent value, and someone not being able to reply to your text in 20 minutes means that they hate you. Being hot and having fun thinking would be, I'm being intentional in my communication and I'm open to however that is received, and hopefully I meet people that I can be hot and have fun together with. And if it's not compatible, then it's okay. I'm glad that I tried, you know, and that's just information for me for the next thing. Does that make sense? I'm going to think about it more though, in terms of how to better articulate it. I've adopted being hot and having fun in my life. It genuinely made me feel better. Slay. But yeah, being able to interrogate your thoughts and the pattern and the direction of them is an ongoing process, okay? There's no point at which you will have a loving relationship with every thought that you have. I think when you accept that there are so many things in life that you can't predict, you have no idea what someone's going to do, who you're going to meet, how shit's going to go down, for better or worse, then you just accept that, like, you know, this is something that I have to stay vigilant about. Reminder to everyone to say I love you to those around you and to make sure you're leaving each situation the way you'd want it to end. Yes. How can I be hot and having fun without thinking about male validation and how I'm being perceived by men? I recommend that you get into dancing. Take dance classes. And just ask yourself every time you do something, like, am I doing this because I enjoy it, or am I doing it because I want someone to give me approval for it? you know, or I want someone to think that I'm pretty, or I want someone to think that I'm valuable. Are you doing it because you enjoy it, or because you're waiting for someone to let you enjoy your life? You know, those are two very different states of being. And I think for me, I've generally just been like, oh, I'm doing this because I enjoy it, and then other people happen to enjoy it too, versus I'm doing it because I want other people to like me. You know what I mean? Do you think it's possible to overcome insecurities operating from a lack, not having what you desire? When I overcome them, it's from an excess and behavior therapy, but not lack. What does that mean? I think the best way to overcome insecurities is to start with gratitude. Like, even if it's not gratitude for the thing that you're trying to overcome, I think whenever you operate from a lack mindset, that just further entrenches you in a lack mindset. It's like, you might still achieve the thing that you want to achieve using a lack mindset, but it still won't feel like enough, even once you get it, you know? So when you practice gratitude and you're like, oh, I'm so glad that I was able to do this. I'm glad I have the drive to do this. I'm excited for the opportunity to do this, rather than I have to do this. I'm not enough unless I can do this. Then I think your experience of life is just much lighter and enjoyable. But I don't know, some people do enjoy living in a state of lack or lack mentality. They find it more effective for them to achieve things, but it just depends, you know. We just lost someone in a freak accident. I want to say that we all need to live and go out and do what we want. You don't always have tomorrow. Much love to you, girlies. Bless you. I'm so sorry for your loss. And that is so true. Is the thoughts versus you an idea from the book Untethered Soul? If you have read it, what are your thoughts? I have not read it. It is a part of so many different philosophies. To understand the separation of thoughts and person, I suggest looking into Buddhism or listen or read Eckhart Tolle. Yes, I was going to say Eckhart Tolle is a good start. Eckhart Tolle is like the gateway for the West into Eastern spirituality. You know, he's like Buddhism light. But it's a good start. I once got into a debate with a guy friend because my meditation focuses on signs of nature, and he said it's not real meditation. It's so funny to hear someone who wants to high horse on meditation. Ugh, literally men and their inability to think outside the box. So you wouldn't consider your thoughts good or bad a part of your self-identity? No, I don't. Dance at home, yes. Yeah, so like, they're just thoughts. Okay, when you realize they're just thoughts and you are actually the one that determines whether they're good or bad. They're not good or bad in a universal way, because I don't think there is such thing as universal morality. Because what you realize is that, like, there's left and right leaning politics. People on the left believe that what they believe is good and what the right believes is bad. People on the right believe what they believe is good and what people on the left believe is bad. So your idea of what is good and bad is very specific to you, and you can decide at any given point how you assign good versus bad. What is being hot and having fun? What is ugly and having a bad time? Because one thought that you're having, you might assume that that makes you ugly and having a bad time. But you could decide on any given day that that thought is now better for you to be hot and have fun. Because especially when you're in like a depressed or negative state, you assign negativity to like everything that you think and every possible solution available to you to not be sad anymore, you know, speaking from experience. Okay, I think that when I was depressed, any suggestion that someone would make to me, I was like, you're an idiot, okay? But a lot of the times, there was value in those suggestions. So I had to change my mindset and be open to all different ideas in order for me to change my behavior and then change my mindset and then change my relationship to myself and not be ugly and having a bad time. You know what I mean? So even like someone's idea of meditation, if I suggested to someone, meditation could be really beneficial for you to changing your mindset. If they have a negative association with meditation, they'll be like, no, meditation is bad because I can't do it, you know? But is that true? You don't know. Maybe you didn't try. Maybe you didn't try enough different ways of doing it. If you just said to yourself, well, maybe I should loosen the grip of morality that I have around meditation and just entertain it neutrally and give it a go and see what happens. Now, your relationship and your association with meditation is different. For example, you might have a thought that's like, oh my God, I really want to punch that person. Am I a bad person because I thought that? Well, it's just a thought. Did you act on the thought? No. So are you a bad person? Did you actually create harm? No. And I think that we live in a world now that's full of thought police, okay? Just because you say something doesn't mean you're actually doing it. And a lot of people, especially because they're chronically online, your brain can't always tell the difference between what you see on a screen and what you're actually experiencing. Actually, like, you have to remind yourself that you're just watching something, that you're not actually experiencing it. So people think that like what people say, although it can define you in ways, it should not be held to the same weight as people that are actually actively creating harm, you know? How did you begin your journey to better yourself? I don't know, I just feel like it's ever evolving. I was really into like reading Eckhart Tolle and stuff when I was like a teenager. My question is, what makes up your identity? I understand it's ever evolving. What does it mean to you to know who you are? So then your thoughts occur, and what do you act on? You know, your personality is like a sum of your habits and what you actually do. So the difference between thinking I'm such a good person, but every time you're triggered emotionally, you punch someone. Okay, now there's a huge cognitive dissonance between the way that you act, okay, other people's experience of you, and the way that you think you're experiencing yourself. You've repressed the harm you've caused other people, but you keep convincing yourself that you're a good person. So are you a good person? Are you actually having the effect on the world that you insist that you are? So like your identity and your character is about the integrity between who you think you are and who you actually are. Like, what do you believe, or who do you want to be, and who are you actually? And it's normal for there to be like a little bit of a gap between these things, okay? But like, how big is the gap? And do you accept that the gap exists, and do you take accountability for the gap that exists, you know? Like, some people, and noticing like when your critique of other people is a projection of you, of like your unaddressed parts of you, and when other people's projection onto you can be unaddressed parts of them and not you, you know? So like, for example, whenever I've had someone criticize me for being too opinionated, they are always so opinionated, okay? So I'm like, it's fine if you think I'm opinionated, but the fact that you don't realize that you're opinionated and you're actually off-putting as well, I don't know how seriously I can take you, girl. Like, you can judge me all you like, and I'm okay with that. But if I was to say to them, and do you realize that you're actually really opinionated too, and a lot of people just tolerate you? I'm not going to say that, but in my mind, I'm like, they're obviously not aware. Do you think having an identity is important? I find myself reflecting too much, I think having an identity is important. Your identity is the lens through which you experience the world, you know, and being open to the ways that it changes and evolves is an important part of it, and being present in your experience as well. Like, you don't have to be defined, or you don't feel this urgency to declare your identity when you are present in your experience. Would you ever do a call-in? I don't even know how to do that. Can I do that on YouTube? How do you get over constant rumination? I feel like it's something I've always done as a survival strategy. I want to be one of those people that just lets things roll off their back. Okay. Speaking as the original thought daughter, rumination is a sign that you are not busy enough. You are not having enough fun, okay? When I was younger, I completely underestimated how much energy I actually had to spend on things that I enjoyed. Because I didn't enjoy what I was doing, like I didn't enjoy study or I didn't enjoy my job, I felt like if I was going to do anything else, that would just add more things that I didn't enjoy to my life, you know? But when I shifted my perspective towards how can I have anchors in my life that I enjoy, okay, non-negotiable hobby, some semblance of a ritual or routine at home, spending time, being more discerning with who I spend time with, what I spend my time doing. The world is your oyster. No time for rumination anymore, okay? I'm busy, got things to do. And it doesn't mean you don't have time where you might reflect and you might stress about things, but the amount of stress that I experience is it's like night and day compared to what I used to experience, you know? So like, you just need to do more stuff, actually. You need to thought dump, okay? All your crazy thoughts, 10 minutes a day, and then get back to living. So if you told my younger self that I would have the time to have my own career, okay, DJing, music consulting, then I would be going to a pole dance studio multiple times a week, sometimes 2 hours, 3 hours at a time. Then I'm also creating content as well, and I have friends, and I have all these other random ass interests. I would not believe you, okay? Because I was depressed and my time and attention was not being used properly. So when you do things that you enjoy, follow your curiosity, find opportunities for you to be in a flow state, okay? I recommend the book Stolen Focus by Johann Hari. Read that book, okay? He talks about how being creative and doing things just because you want to, and because it gets you into a flow state where you're focused on something, that is so beneficial for your mental health, and it's completely overlooked in the way that people think about what's good for you or like how to optimize, you know? Like I said recently, what about optimizing for a good time? You don't need to optimize for efficiency all the time, okay? And that's what so much of like capitalistic, patriarchal technocracy encourages. Like, how do we reduce and remove all the resistance in getting food on your plate, in the way that you work, in the way that you come up with ideas, like with AI, like part of the creative process is the mental struggle, is the process of trial and error, is making a draft and then editing it and then making another draft and then like going through these processes. That is the creative process. And part of it, just because it's like difficult doesn't mean you don't enjoy the challenge, doesn't mean that the challenge isn't rewarding, and you need to find things in your life that will allow you to do that, okay? And maybe when you start off it's really small and it's only like once a week. Maybe you only have time once a week to dance around in your house by yourself or whatever, or take a dance class. Maybe it's like 20 minutes a day or something, but when you start to be intentional with how you spend your time and energy and do it in ways that are fun for you, then the relationship with all the things that you don't like will naturally reprioritize and recalibrate itself, okay? So for example, if you're currently really depressed and you hate study and you hate your job, and all you think about all the time is how much you hate your job, how much you hate study, been there. Rather than thinking about how can I change the way that I think about work so that I don't hate it, you literally just have to do something else with your time. So now there's less time for you to think about work and you're thinking about something else. So even if it's just now 10% of your time is I'm gonna think about making playlists of music that I like and dancing around my house for half an hour a day. that is actually a radical shift in how your time and attention is being split, because you don't need to spend 100% of your time just thinking about work. Maybe work only demands like 30% of your energy, but you spend 100% of your energy, 30% working, 70% thinking about how much you hate it. So now you just have to redivide your attention. So it can be like, I'm only allocating the 30% required of this job, and now I have 70% to do other things. I'm gonna make a YouTube video about that. Okay, download OBS streaming service and do an overlay with a number. Google voice number. People would call in with their phone number. Interesting. Bring some accountability in case they want to call maliciously. Oh, T. Amber's phone number be rejected. Okay. Needed to hear this. You're welcome. I'll be getting that book. I've been in the habit of lingering on things that don't need attention anymore. Yes, you reached a flow state during this live. Exactly. That's why I enjoy going on live. But then sometimes I'm on live too long and it makes me tired. So, like for me, yeah, I think capitalism, people are conditioned to optimize everything for efficiency and for profit, okay? So like you think that something is only valuable because it takes less time or because it makes you a lot of money. And that conditioning can run really deep in your mind. The same as like, like for women, you should only do things if it impresses a man. If it doesn't impress a man, then you shouldn't do it. Hell no, okay? What about optimizing for having a good time, okay? Then you will naturally be able to figure out what is and isn't worth your time. To what degree do you optimize for efficiency, and to what degree do you optimize for profit in certain spaces? You know, like for me, if I was optimizing my content for profit, it would look very different to how it looks now, okay? I optimize content creating for my enjoyment and the enjoyment of the audience, not just for profit. It's nice to make some money, and I would like to make more money, but when I'm focusing on how I can do it from a place of enjoyment, it's going to be more authentic, the ways that I make money off it, okay? Like merchandise on the way. And you realize that it's nice to have money, but to constantly sacrifice your enjoyment in the pursuit of money is kind of depressing. But you can find a healthy balance, okay? Like obviously there are some jobs that I do that aren't like I'm 100% enjoying my time right now, but the money that I get allows me to reinvest that into the things where I do get to fully enjoy my time, you know? So it's the same with like thinking that you have to optimize your life for the male gaze or to impress men. Why? Okay, when you are a woman, you're just naturally going to get attention from men, whether you like it or not, okay? But when you optimize your life for enjoyment, now you're going to be able to figure out which men are compatible with your enjoyment and which men are not. You know what I mean? I've been grieving the time I've given away that has no power or place either. It's time to live and stop letting fleeting thoughts define a whole day. Slay! You can do it. Journal, 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 journal. Would love if you did a video related on this concept of time. Yes, I'm gonna do that. Oh shit. What's the time? 12:30. Okay. Oh my god, it's my friend's birthday today. I have a friend who hates that she's studying and is depressed because of it, and she cannot get herself to do hobbies she used to enjoy to get her mind off it. Any advice? Maybe you can take her somewhere or to something. You can do something together that's fun. Is there like a common interest that you both have that you could do together and you can be accountability partners? Like you both sign up for like a dance class, or you both sign up for some activity, and then you have to do it every week. I want a nose job in China so bad. Any advice? No, I don't have any advice for you, sorry. I'm not the right person to ask about cosmetic procedures. The only thing that I do is like micro needling for my skin. That's it. I don't have filler. I don't have Botox. And I've never had filler or Botox. I wouldn't even know how to ask for it, to be honest. That's how ignorant I am. I'm trying to think what other stuff I've had done. Pretty much only micro needling. I just got this thing called like mesotherapy, which is when they like inject hyaluronic acid. It's called shui guang in Chinese. I love that you've done things to put yourself out there. I've been stuck in just putting myself out there. I think confidence is the biggest hurdle. You're honestly a role model. Bless you. You get more confident by doing it. You know, you don't need to be confident first. You need to trust that you will become confident in the process. Okay. And that requires you to be like a beginner, but you can be a beginner at confidence. Okay. I don't think, like when I was younger, I don't think I was like a naturally outgoing or confident person. That's something that I've had to train myself to do. Like I still get nervous having to like signal a waiter. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to disturb them. It's like literally their job. And I've been a waitress before. Like I know what your responsibilities are as a waitress. So you will become confident in the process. You know, when I first started making content, I didn't know what I was doing. And I received a lot of backlash, okay? If you go to the earlier part of my TikTok page, I was replying to hate comments. I was making videos off of hate comments like it was my job, okay? I was underemployed at the time, but people were not happy, okay? But I believed in my message, and I'm grateful for the people that supported me and encouraged me, and here we are. And it's an ongoing process, you know? Like I don't claim to know better than anyone. I'm just sharing what my point of view is, and that's always my approach. I think obviously other people have different approaches to me, which has different results, but I think that for me, like I've always just focused on this is just an exploration of what I'm thinking at the moment. I'm open to other perspectives. I've entertained other perspectives in the process of coming and refining my own perspective. And like I have been extremely depressed before. I've had a lot of questions and curiosities and anxieties about the world before, and I've done my best to like research and explore these ideas in a way that allows me to navigate the world from a place of like intention and openness and curiosity. Maybe this will help you on your journey, whether you agree with me or not. You know, sometimes like I watch a lot of things that I don't agree with. I talk to a lot of people who I don't agree with in order to better understand like what is right for me. You know, I respect other people's right to be wrong, the same way that I respect my own right to be wrong. But not everybody thinks that way, okay? Everybody thinks that they're right and everyone else has to be wrong. And I don't think that, or they can never be wrong. And I think that's a very limiting way to think, because ultimately like this is a human experience. And when you educate yourself about how the world works and how humans have been in history, you realize how lucky you are to live in this day and age, even though it's like so completely fucked. It's always been fucked actually. Okay, humans have been killing each other, eating each other. It's disturbing, okay? So to live in a way where you are not deep in that side of humanity is truly a privilege, okay? Enjoy it. I just listened to the cryptocurrency crime book. Fucking crazy, the shit that people are doing on the dark web. I started Botox this year at 24. It decreased my anxiety. The following I did was creating loops. Oh, okay, that's nice. Thanks for the advice today, and everyone else for the interesting add-ons. Have a nice day. Have a great day, babes. Do you enjoy microneedling? What are your results? I like microneedling. I have a lot of acne scars from when I was depressed, and I pick at my skin. And I think it's helped a lot. The book that I listened to, it was called, I think it was called Washed. Let me double check. How do I even see my history? I don't usually listen. Rinsed by Jeff White, From Cartels to Crypto, How the Tech Industry Washes Money for the World's Deadliest Crooks. Very interesting. Like, granted, it was an audiobook, so I probably didn't get the full picture because sometimes I would just like space out. But yeah, like, humans are fucked. It's really scary out there, guys. Be careful and focus on being hot and having fun. You do it scared video got me here. Slay. If you can't do it scared, do it ironically. Period. But yeah, like, once you accept the reality of how fried everything is, you can focus on how you can enjoy your reality. How can you contribute positively and move the needle even just a little bit? Was there any content online that inspired your content? What was the final turning point to get you to start your YouTube journey? Content that inspired me. I don't know. I feel like, seeing like other women just share their thoughts was inspiring. Being on TikTok for so long, it wasn't that long. It was like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and like not making any money off of it. I was like, maybe I should go on a platform that I can actually monetize for my time. That's why I started YouTube, because I was like, and I also think that there were limitations to the TikTok format, like making everything, like, I think it's difficult to engage with TikTok intentionally as a viewer, because it's like swipe. So if you want to discuss a topic with slightly more in depth, you need to kind of make it on YouTube, because I feel like the platform itself is more demanding for the viewer than a platform like TikTok. So I think it got to a point where I'd explored a lot of ideas on like a surface level, and I felt like doing it in slightly longer format or more detail or more intention would be a welcome challenge. I didn't feel that challenged by TikTok anymore. So that's why I started YouTube. And I always wanted to do YouTube in some way, I think. I just didn't really know like what my approach was going to be, because I don't think I'm very good at vlogging. Even though like in my mind I really want to vlog, when I'm actually living my life, I find it really difficult to vlog. And then editing a vlog, oh my God. So then when I was like, I can actually just like talk to camera, have a whiteboard, outline ideas as a starting point, that's like a low barrier of entry for me to be able to experiment with that format and then see how it may or may not develop. Also, the editing isn't as demanding, you know. You could do mukbang and chat, yeah. But I think like mukbang and chat is better when I'm like on live, you know, because then there's like feedback. If I'm just eating and talking to myself, I may as well just be talking and not eating. You know what I mean? If I want to talk about something that's like has some depth to it. Listening to a YouTube video on that next. Thank you for the perspective. Yee. But yeah, mukbang on live. Would that make sense? What should I eat though? Let me think. Things that I can order when I'm in Shanghai. I eat really fast though. So it'd be like me eating for 10 minutes and then answering questions for like an hour. But yeah, the world is your food oyster. It really is. You can literally order everything in China. It's crazy. Any final thoughts? I'm gonna do the how to not be depressed by having fun. I miss food in China so bad. Where have you been in China? What's your favorite Chinese food? My friend is in Guangzhou at the moment. Oh my god, I'm so jealous. He's eating every day. He's there for work, but he's like having dinners with his like collaborators, and the food there is like so much cheaper than Shanghai as well. But I still love Shanghai. I'd love you to talk about your take about racism, how it affects women. Okay. Do you have any of your own thoughts about this in terms of like the point of view? I kind of touched on it recently in my most recent video. Like, I'm not denying the structural and very real implications of racism, but I think that it's also your relationship to the racism that you experience that plays a really big part in your experience of the world. So for example, okay, one way of thinking about it, which is like a little bit esoteric, is like this idea of thought forms and like egregores. So different ideas maintain their viability by getting people to believe in the validity of the idea. So for example, the plastic surgery industry continues to exist because so many people believe that the way that you look defines who you are, or is the most valuable part or an extremely valuable part of your experience of life or your ability to be happy, right? And I think that that's kind of like the same thing with the way that people think about racism. It's not that if you don't subscribe to a negative association to your experience of racism that you don't experience it anymore, that racism ceases to exist, but its ability to affect you is diminished over time. So just speaking from my personal experience, and I also recognize that like I am still in a privileged position in spite of any marginalization that I would have experienced being Chinese. But when I was growing up and I didn't have like a clear sense of identity, I would like always push back against other people's assumption of me because I was Chinese. Have a great day, babe. So I mentioned in the most recent YouTube video this idea of like counter will, and your identity is formed in opposition to something versus embodying something, you know? So my identity was more about how I wasn't Chinese the way that people thought I should be Chinese, versus it evolving to me embracing that being Chinese is just part of who I am, and however I choose to live my life is representation of what it means to be Chinese because I am Chinese, if that makes sense. So it's not that racism doesn't exist anymore, but the way that racism can affect me mentally, spiritually, is very different now. So before, it was like I was subconsciously in situations where I had to constantly defend myself against people who wanted to define me because I was Chinese. White people that were like, you're this and you're that because you're Chinese. And I feel like I had to constantly push against it because I had developed like a counter will. My identity was rejecting whiteness or rejecting racism. But then I was like, you know what? How about I just fuck all those people off, okay? Because obviously we're not compatible. You can't even accept me as a person without having to see it through a racial lens. I don't want to talk to you. Let me focus on being Chinese or just being a person and just enjoying my life. And then I started to connect with people in ways where I didn't have to defend myself against their assumptions of me being Chinese. And I started to like grow and develop an identity from within, okay? I wasn't just defending like an empty shell. I was like planting seeds in my own garden. I was growing my own sense of self. So if I did experience someone who would try to say something about me or define me because I'm Chinese or not Chinese enough, I just didn't care. Like it literally just affected me less. And I would avoid making assumptions about how other people did or didn't see me as a result of me being Chinese. But yeah, I don't really know. I don't know if that makes any sense. It is a process. And obviously it's different, especially because now I live in China. So like I'm not constantly exposed to Western racism the way that I would be if I lived in a different part of the world, you know? So I think that if I did, I would think about how to kind of like hook people in, but then take them by surprise if I was dealing with racist people or people that were prone to racism. I don't know if that makes any sense. Let me know if you have more follow-up questions or more specific questions that I could think about and address. Do you feel more relaxed and free in Shanghai versus Australia? Also, do they have pole dancing classes in Shanghai? I assume they probably have one studio. There are many pole dance studios in Shanghai. I feel more relaxed in Shanghai because life is more efficient here. Like the things that I want or need to be efficient are efficient for me in Shanghai. For example, transport. I don't like driving, so I don't need to drive here. It's like cheap to call cars. It's easy to get the subway. There's share bikes everywhere. I appreciate being able to do that because I don't personally like driving, you know, but some people like driving, so that makes sense for them to live in a place where they drive. I've never really like lived and worked in Australia properly, so I can't really speak on what it would be like to live as like a fully functioning adult there. Like when I was there during the pandemic, that was kind of like an arrested state of development. Like even the work that I was doing wasn't really based in Australia anyway. I feel relaxed in Australia too now when I go back because I can just go there But yeah, I don't know. I don't think one is better than the other. I think now I appreciate they're different. Pros and cons to both places. I would prefer to be in Shanghai right now for work and for life. And then I'm grateful that I get to go back to Australia when I do. When it comes to decentering romance, do you feel your message applies to Black women, darker skinned women as easily? I think decentering romance and men can be applicable to anyone, regardless of your race, but I can't speak to whether it applies as easily to Black or dark-skinned women. I do have a lot of like Black women who follow me and let me know that they appreciate the message. I don't think it's like a racially exclusive thing, and I think it's up to everyone like how they want to incorporate it or not into their life according to their own context. There was a TikTok video that got almost 2 million likes. It said everything looks better in Black except for girls, and that is a type of rhetoric that is so disgusting and hateful. Oh my god, that's awful. Now as an adult, I synthesize a lot of my emotions and thoughts towards racism and actually relate to you and your journey on some level, but those types of posts will make me realize things will never change. Yeah, like that part I will not be able to speak on. And for me, like I don't get fed the same content that a Black woman would be fed, so I don't know. Like there are so many blind spots for me on how insidious or like the nuances of the racism that you would experience or a different race to me would experience. But I think that part of it is also curating your feed and what information you're exposed to. So it's not that you repress the existence of that kind of racism. You know that it exists, but you don't regularly expose yourself to it if it has a really negative effect on you, if it derails your day. You know, like I still see content and I still know of people who are racist to all races, racist towards Chinese people. Like even the xenophobia that is present in the West and like Western narratives, it's so deeply insidious, and it even affects Chinese people that I meet in China who are extremely self-hating as a result of absorbing like Western propaganda against China. So you can acknowledge that it exists, but it's important how you let it affect you, you know, without taking responsibility for feeling like you have to be the person to change everybody's mind about it. You know what I mean? Like you living authentically to you living your life and enjoying it is actually a radical act as a person in general, but especially if you're part of a minority. That's why it's like even more important for you to embrace it, in my opinion, because there are so many things that are pushing against you, trying to insist that you hate yourself and you have a bad time. Like literally for any minority, it's always that. And even for white people, okay, it's not necessarily like sunshine and rainbows for them either. I know a lot of self-hating white people. The worst thing is when someone who has privilege doesn't know how to use it to enrich their own life and then enrich the lives of others. They have privilege and yet their presence is like feared because they are so lame. You know, like that's the worst. So I feel like you can't help like the body that you're born into, and you can't help that because of that society insists that you feel a type of way about yourself, but you can decide that you're not going to let that define you. That's part of what you have to deal with, but you being able to protect like your own time and attention so that you can enjoy your life in spite of the horrors that persist, I think is a radical act. You know, they don't want you to know that. They want you to think that you have to optimize for profit, you have to optimize for efficiency in order to be happy, and happiness is a reward that comes later. But you can actually decide, okay, you know what? I'm gonna spite the CIA today by being happy. you know, or by choosing to not let this affect me the way that it's assumed that it should, you know, like nothing pisses off people more when you're a woman and a minority and they try to assume power and control over you and you don't take it and you remain indifferent. You know, that's like one of the most powerful responses that you can have. That's why I always talk about how like silence is an answer. Sometimes walking away is a response, you know, and like I want to be able, like I'm not advocating for like toxic positivity and like denying the reality and being like, if you just ignore it, it'll go away. Like, no, it's very much there and you very much need to know that it exists and you need to know how to navigate it if push comes to shove. But you also need to, at the same time, protect your time and energy and actively participate in your life to create joy, to create meaningful relationships that will protect you from that. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of the times people think that it's one or the other. Like either I'm positive about everything and I reject negativity and it doesn't exist, or I just look at the reality of how bad it is and that's all I can think about. There is like a middle ground that you can reach. And it's so easy for things to be taken out of context and for people to say like, you're just a downer or like you're advocating for positivity. But I'm like trying to stress that it's a combination of both, okay? It's a spectrum that you need to learn to navigate. There are times when you're going to have to face the harsh reality of like racism and societal, structural, oppressive ideas, structures, behavior, etc. Okay, that's real. But that shouldn't stop you from also deciding that like you have agency over your life, and you have to trust that the more that you invest in that, the more it will accumulate and it will protect you to a degree, okay? But still be mindful of how you're moving, okay? Don't become braggadocious, but yeah, like what else are you supposed to do? You know, there is not this magical place that you can go to where like kumbaya and everyone like loves each other. Like remember, anywhere there are human beings, there's going to be bullshit. Even when you're by yourself, the bullshit is in your mind. Okay, it's inescapable, but it is manageable. So don't forget that. How do you detach from those narratives as a minority? How do you know when you should walk away versus calling out as a black woman? Bless you. You need to just develop discernment, you know, think about how you feel. Do you like the way that you feel about yourself when you're around this person? Yes or no, you know, and then interrogate it. Is it because of who you are or is it because of their own bullshit, you know? And when you do things that you enjoy, you expand this part of you, it will protect you and give you more information for what you do and don't enjoy, okay? Because I know what I enjoy, now it's much easier for me when I'm in the presence of someone that I don't like them, okay? When I didn't do things that I enjoyed, my reference point for what was fun and what wasn't fun wasn't as developed. So I would let myself try to convince myself that something that I didn't like, I actually liked just because I didn't know what I enjoyed. You know, but the more you expand and embody enjoying yourself, the more you realize when something stands in stark contrast to that. And even if you are open to it, then you are going to tread more carefully, you know? I was born and raised in Africa. My parents were born in West Africa. I was born in America. My parents were religious. So for romance, they told me to obey men even if they're trash. I'm really glad that you are rejecting that narrative. Just saw an IG post that said, treat your hobbies like your main job and treat your job like a side hustle. And everything changes. Exactly. Exactly. Okay? Your job finances your hobbies. My job is basically a hobby, you know? Like, but when you turn your hobby into a job, you need other hobbies to counteract the fact that your hobby became a job. You know what I mean? Like, it's not so simple. Like, now my hobby's a job. Now everything's now everything's figured out. No, your relationship with your hobby fundamentally changes when you turn it into a job. So just be mindful of that as well. Love the whiteboard. Yes, it's blank, just like my mind. Okay, thank you so much everyone for joining. I hope you have a great day. Thank you for your thoughts and your questions and your book recommendations and sharing your vibes with me. Could you see yourself doing content creation full time? No, I could never. No. I can do it and I can spend more time doing it, but I think to do it full time, it's not for me. Because the thing about content creation for me is like, I need to live my life in order to have things to talk about in my content. And if all I do is make content, then I have nothing to talk about. I have no experiences to live. But yeah. Thank you so much for joining. Love you lots. Have a great day, a great night, a great sleep, wherever you are. And I will speak to you soon. Stay hot and having fun. Love you.